BYU and Houston winning their bowl games changed the narrative for the Big 12. Also, you ready for this? I am confident, supremely confident, TCU is going to beat USC and Texas Tech will beat Oregon. Here's why. This is a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Each week, I join ESPN Central Texas, my old station. Talk a little this, talk a little that, Big 12 sports. This week, I hopped on, talked USC TCU. I talked Texas Tech, Oregon, BYU, Houston, how those teams won their bowl game, and NBA players that will play in the Big 12. Is it kosher? Should we do that? Probably not. I decided I'd record it, post it as a bonus episode for all of you Big 12 fiends that love the Big 12, just as I do. If you're ready, I'm ready. Hit subscribe. I get to keep my job. Let's go.
Drake, Happy New Year. How you doing, man?
Ward, Happy New Year. Hope you had a great Christmas as well. Life is good in Savannah, Georgia. Everything's frozen, but outside of that, I'm happy.
So are you sledding this afternoon? Is that what you're telling us?
As soon as my toes thaw out, maybe I'll get into some of that debauchery. But for now, I'm sitting next to. They tell you to never have a fireplace when you live close to the coast. They lie. They are liars when they say that.
All right, the Big 12 in bowl season, and so far in bowl season, it's been good to the Big 12 as they are 2-0 with the big wins on the 27th for BYU and Houston.
Yeah, I was very impressed with what the Big 12 was able to do in both of those games. And for BYU, obviously, it did not go exactly as planned in the early goings of that game. They're down 21-10 at halftime, but then they come back to prove in the second half that the resilience of that team, the defense of that team, namely in the final 30 minutes, is elite. And that's where they've won games all year, is that last couple drives, last couple quarters of luck and defense. It's so odd that BYU had a habit this year of getting down by double digits, whether it was UCF or Houston. They just love to be down. Iowa State, they were down double digits and lost their starting running back, L.J. Martin, but then Bear Bachmeier leads them to victory. It was the same case in this instance against Georgia Tech, and a lot of people across the country were tweeting and saying, oh, that's it. BYU's done. It's over. You can kiss the Cougars goodbye. There's no way they should ever have been in the conversation for the college football playoff. And by the end, you saw why the now 12-win BYU Cougars probably deserved at least a shot to prove themselves. And I want to go back to the fact that I believe that any given year, James Madison or Tulane could be or should be in the playoff, but they need to have a top 15 resume. BYU should have made it over those schools in the years. There were those old years where TCU was a Mountain West team or Utah was a Mountain West team that could beat teams in the top 10. That's a playoff caliber, playoff deserving team. I don't think JMU and Tulane were that this year. Then Houston over LSU. The Tiger faithful will give you the excuse that we didn't want to play in the bowl game. We opted out of the bowl game. It didn't matter for us. I want to give you a stat here. 66 LSU players are 4 or 5 stars. 6, count it, just 6 Houston players are 4 or 5 stars. Even if half the LSU roster opted out, they would still have 30 more 4 or 5 star, 30 more blue chip players than what Houston threw out there. On paper, LSU wins this game by 14, but Houston, the more disciplined, better football team, more focused football team, a big win for Willie Fritz, good win for the Big 12. Yeah. Hello, friends. Today's show is brought to you by GameTime. GameTime is exactly where I go. Nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets,
That's the part that's kind of hard, actually. Long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. So I open GameTime and I save big. The app is incredibly easy to use. I go from browsing tickets to buying them in just minutes. I love being able to see the view from my seat before buying. I know exactly what I'm getting. The zone deals stand out. Pick the section, GameTime picks the seats. You save even more. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that code is locked on college for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Download GameTime today.
Drake, I want to get your take on some of these college football players opting out of these bowl games and entering the transfer portal, not playing with their teams in the bowl games. Do you feel like that kind of waters down some of these matchups and doesn't really make it so much more exciting when you are missing some of your big-time players in these bowl games?
Yeah, so there are really two schools of thought here, Jacob, on this one. And typically I would subscribe to the idea that college football is worse off because of these opt-outs. And overall it is. But what I've watched more specifically this bowl season in the last couple of years, it is the opportunity for a freshman at North Texas or a freshman at East Carolina. Like, this is a good example. East Carolina started a quarterback who is in his freshman campaign, 18 years old, against Pitt, and he goes out and gets the win. Foundational memory and an opportunity for himself to be boosted. So while I want to blame the kids, while I want to blame the kid for opting out and not playing, going to the transfer portal, it's so hard for me to put that pressure on the 18, 19, 20-year-old when it's the 50, 60, 70-year-olds that set the parameters in place that allow this to be the Wild West. We need to start at the top where the rules are. The kids are going to take advantage of what you're allowing them to do. They're not doing anything illegal. They're saying, hey, I'm not going to play for the betterment of myself because my agent, my speed coach, my coach that I'm transferring to told me not to, so I'm opting out. That's not on the kid. It's on those who are influencing him or those who are creating the rules to put the 19-year-old in the spot where they're holding out of the bowl game. Because look, if I'm 19 years old, let me be very clear. That's why I do not blame the athletes. If I'm 19 years old and you tell me, hey, if you opt out of this one football game, instead of $100,000, we'll give you $2 million next year to come to our school and play at a higher level and maybe be drafted higher. That $2 million is life-changing for people. If somebody offers me $2 million, there are very few things I'm turning down in general. I don't blame the 19-year-old kid. There have to be more rules in place that make bowl season better and make this less of a free agency and more of an amateur, beautiful, lovable college football that we miss.
Speaking of that, Drake, talking with Drake Toll, Westwood One, and Locked on Big 12. Speaking of that, Drake, Iowa State and Kansas State rosters just decimated by the transfer portal. I think they're both schools are down to 13 players on campus.
Yeah, this is where somehow, as jacked up as the NFL feels sometimes, they have built a format where Nick Sirianni cannot leave the Eagles and then Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Cooper DeJean, and the like all follow him. Andy Reid can't leave the Chiefs, and immediately Patrick Mahomes says, you know what, you're right, I'm going to go with him. He's my coach. There is a portion of that in the National Football League. You've seen it before. A player wants to be with coach or coach likes player. But by and large, what you get are parameters with contracts in the way of players being paid way more than they deserve or way more than they need to be paid, and players trying to leave a program in the middle of a year. Whereas in college football, you can do whatever you want, and it's leaving Oklahoma State with 42, 43 guys who've entered the transfer portal, or Iowa State with 42, 43 guys who've entered the portal, many who have graduated, many off to the NFL, and they're down to 15 or less players. That's happening across college football now because the second a coach leaves, North Texas lost its entire starting offense. Iowa State has lost 21 of 22 starters. Imagine the Dallas Cowboys next year, which maybe it would help the Cowboys. Imagine the Dallas Cowboys losing 21 or 22 starters going into next year. It's unfathomable. You can't think about it like that, right? College football is lacking infrastructure. We have torn it down entirely. You can do whatever you want. And the largest issue with this is it's gotten political, and it's not even a conservative versus progressive mindset. It's gotten political in that it's the actual government, the law itself is helping these athletes do whatever they want. we have ingrained politicians to allow us to sue over the lack of antitrust laws here. Like, oh, well, and this is why there are now NBA players playing in college basketball, is lawmakers are saying, okay, well, if NIL is a thing now, but it wasn't a thing 5 years ago, then you're telling me the player 5 years ago was missing out on $1 million. They deserve that $1 million. Let them come back and play. Otherwise, you're monopolizing this. It's an antitrust issue and violation. That is completely backward, but we're allowing the law to step in and make it even worse.
Drake Toll with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas, and the Big 12 on the stage tonight with TCU and USC in San Antonio in the Valero Alamo Bowl. TCU without their quarterback and Sonny Dykes calling plays on offense. How does this TCU team fare against USC with those circumstances?
This is going to be a fun game. I'm actually really excited to see what TCU throws out there with Kenny Seals, I should say. Ken is the Texas guy. 6'3", 220 quarterback, and the second this week that he was named the starting quarterback in place of Josh Hoover, who's in the transfer portal, he teared up. He got emotional. He said, it was my childhood dream. I have always wanted to be the starting quarterback at TCU and to represent that school, my dream school, the team that I've rooted for since day one, to represent them in a bowl game, stand alone with the country watching. This is the greatest honor of my college career. And everybody I've heard from around the TCU program, everybody I've heard from the staff, and even up to Sonny Dykes in his press conference has said, look, if you want to opt out, if you want to leave, there's the door. That's fine. I've got my boy Ken Seals. We're going to go out there and compete. And the guys who want to play are going to compete at the highest level. I spent, I don't know, a couple hours analyzing this game 10 days ago, 12 days ago when I thought Josh Hoover was going to play. And I was leaning USC. Since then, after hearing Lincoln Riley, a lot of his thoughts and focus are elsewhere and have been elsewhere. I don't foresee that USC puts forth the same effort into this bowl game that TCU is going to. I think TCU surprises a lot of people, and the Big 12 looks great on national television tonight, even though ESPN only gives the Horned Frogs a 30% chance of victory.
Drake, let's talk about the biggest story in college basketball over the last week. It involves our Baylor Bears signing a midseason prospect. Before we get into the technicalities and people taking shots at Drew and things like that, just from a basketball standpoint, people were asking me all year, I said I thought that they seemed like they were one player away, an elite player, but one player away, and I think they added that player.
Yeah, when you add NBA talent, Aaron, that is good.
Well, no, but I mean, with their roster overall, they got length and scoring, and now they have a defensive presence in the middle, which they had zero of before.
They needed that. Baylor needed that. And I'm being facetious there in saying that we're talking about adding an elite player. Yeah, they did. They went to the G League ranks and they grabbed a guy who I don't understand the amount of people who are coming after Scott Drew and attacking Scott Drew, because he's the sixth head coach, not the first, not the second, the sixth head coach in college basketball this year to sign a guy from the G League. And nobody cared about the other five. Now it's all Scott Drew's fault, and Tom Izzo is going to call Scott Drew and fix this somehow because he's the savior of college basketball. I am a little confused because while I do not want professional players, I do not want guys who have committed to be drafted, who have gotten drafted, who have been in the NBA, who have been in the G League, to be able to come back and play college basketball. I don't think that should be a thing. We have been, I go to Matt Painter, and Matt Painter always has at Purdue some 7-foot center named Islamatov Chokolov. And you're like, wow, great. This guy's been playing European professional basketball for Real so-and-so since he was 17. And he's got 2 or 3 years of professional paid basketball under his belt. And no one's ever been mad at Matt Painter for that. But the second that we do it in America, the second that we say the G League, oh, I've heard of the G League. I haven't heard of those European leagues where they're playing professionally. I've heard of the G League. That's when it becomes an issue. And I don't get the people who are coming after Scott Drew's character, his morality, who are saying that, oh, this is a typical move for Scott Drew. This is how he runs his programs. Those people are wrong. They have not been around Scott Drew. They are telling you things that are incorrect, completely incorrect. And what Scott is doing is simply taking advantage of a rule that's already been in place. Aaron, Ward, Jacob, 10, 12, 15 years ago, allegedly, Cam Newton gets a bag with $100,000 in it from a bag man at a McDonald's, right? There have been rules in place against these things where universities and coaches have been cheating forever. This is not an example of that. This is an example of Scott saying, well, if you're going to allow me to do it, if I don't, Duke will, Kansas will, Calipari at Arkansas will, somebody in the SEC will. If you're going to allow it, either they're first and I fade into the sunset, or I do it myself. And that's what Scott Drew is doing, is taking advantage of the rules that everyone else will inevitably also take advantage of. Nice. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go during the NBA season. On my Fridays. Yes, that's right. My Fridays for happy hour. NBA happy hour is awesome. It's the official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with my NBA happy hour. Open the FanDuel app during holiday happy hour and bring something new. Boosts, bonuses, surprises. So before tip off, check the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA happy hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, a whole lot of Friday energy. NBA happy hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. It's FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app and do it today.
Drake, going back to college football, after stepping away from Utah, Kyle Whittingham accepts that position at Michigan as head football coach. We saw this coming, didn't we?
Wow. So the intricacy of this is special, and it is that Whittingham wanted to stay the head coach at Utah. And he had told the athletic director, Mark Harlan, I've spoken to a couple people, some donors at Utah, that he had campaigned for himself and had gone to the donors and said, hey, I'm a legend here. We need a little bit more support, some more money, but I'd like to stay the head coach. Now, he's also said the last 5 years, I'm about to retire. And ultimately, Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, he was fed up. He said, look, if you keep telling me you're going to retire, you have to do it at some point. I can't keep going cat and mouse here. So you know what? Just go. Just walk. I'm done playing this game. Little did the athletic director, Kevin Harlan, know that Kyle Whittingham would walk, and he would walk into one of the best jobs in college football. This is like the CEO at Nokia fires the CFO, and then the CFO takes over at Apple. It's what just happened between Utah and Michigan. I think the egg is on the face of the athletic director at Utah right now. Kyle Whittingham is already stealing staff from BYU and from Utah. This is going to be a big win for Michigan, a big win for Witt. They got an old school ball coach who can also adapt to the transfer portal. This is great for the Big Ten, bad for the Big 12.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 and host of Westwood One Morning Show with us here in the press box on ESPN Central Texas. And I have to ask, in New Year's Day, Oregon and Texas Tech, and Oregon a slight favorite right now. Does the week off or the extra week for Oregon getting to play last week and Tech not getting to play, does the trend from last year continue this year?
Yeah, I think what's going to be different this year is the level of opponent. So I also shout out to you and Blaze Ward for your Texas Tech gear on Christmas. I thought that was a great picture. I know that your Tech fandom in there is tried and true, and I've got good news for the Red Raiders. Oregon is in a very interesting and odd spot. See, the SEC in Week 11, Alabama will play Mercer or Abilene Christian, right? They'll blow out that team. Then the next week, they always struggle. They're always slow because when you play gauntlet, tough team, and then you play a James Madison or a Tulane who's not really in the same league as you start to get lazy. Oregon started to get lazy. You get out of rhythm. For Texas Tech, they've got rest, a ton of rest. They're as healthy as they've been all season long. They hit the ground running against Oregon, and the Ducks got spooked. 34 points they allowed against James Madison. They got out of practice. They got out of whack, and I don't think that's going to translate well in this game for Oregon and for Dan Lanning's team. They'll be prepared. I think Dan Lanning is a great coach. I respect Oregon, but I think this is Texas Tech's game because their defense is truly, truly elite. I believe this is the best defense we've seen in the Big 12, possibly ever, when given the caliber they sit in the context of winning college football playoff games.
Drake Toll with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas. And Drake, tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Westwood One, the Westwood One app as well. And on The Fan, I found out today, 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning on 105.3 The Fan, which is fun. And then as soon as my show is over, hop over to Ward of the Press Box, spend the rest of your day with ESPN Central Texas. But all of those spots and then Locked On Big 12, wherever you find your podcasts.
Drake, appreciate the time as always and the insight. Happy New Year. Congratulations on the new gig, and we look forward to hearing you.
Yep, fun stuff, Ward. Hopefully the next time we talk, the Cowboys have a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, you got that right. There he goes, Drake Toe, Locked On Big 12 with us here in the Press Box.